All right, quiz 9.1 to 9.4. Let's go over it. Let me get you some feedback. Cut down on the questions when we get back to class. So number 1, find the following info for a 16-gon. So we have n equals 16. Depending on how you want to do it, I'm going to kind of just roughly sketch the first angle or two. So I know we kind of start heading off something like that. I always like to kind of visualize the exterior angle. So if you want to start right off with the sum of the interior angles, you could just use the formula n minus 2 times 180. So that's going to be 14 times 180 is 2520. All right, so that's, I usually draw that in the middle of the shape, but like triangles have 180 degrees, 16-gons have 2,520 degrees. I'll have to double check because on the teacher made, if you put the comma in, it might have marked it wrong, so that's something I gotta fix. How much is each interior angle? Well, you could take that 2520 and you could divide it by 16 angles. So divided by 16 is 157.5. So that means every single corner here, if you were going to draw it with a protractor, you'd need 157.5. Each outside angle, well, you can subtract from 180, the inside angle. And that looks like it's going to be, what, 22.5? So that's going to be out here. And then to find the sum of the exterior, you shouldn't have to do any calculation because every single shape, it's always 360. You could have reversed that order. Me personally, I usually start with the 360 because it's easy to remember. I divide it by 16. And that would have got me to here. Then I'd subtract from 180. Then I multiply by 16. And that will get me to where I need to go. All right, moving on. Number 2. If the sum of the interior angles is 1260, how many sides does a polygon have? So I'm just going to set up the formula. I know the sum of the interior angles of a polygon. Well, that formula is this. It is, so it equals 1260. And now we just solve for it. I divide by 180, divide by 180. 1260 divided by 180 is 7. So n take away 2 equals 7. So that means the number of sides would be 9. Now I think the first teacher made I made for the first class, I accidentally put that as the answer. So I had to go in and manually fix people's. So you may have noticed when you submitted it, it gave you a certain score, but then hopefully in Power School you saw a point added because I had to make that little fix. All right, number 3, find the value of x. Well, first thing I need to understand, this is a quadrilateral. So everything needs to add up to 360. So right now we have 91, 113, and 90. Let's see where that puts us at. That's 4, 9, 294. So subtract that from 360. That means we are short by 66 degrees. So that tells me how much the 13x plus 1 has to be. So this is my equation I'm going to start solving on. I minus the 1 from both sides. I divide, and boom, we get x equals 5. Keep on going. Scrolling down to number 4, parallelogram, find the measure of the angle. So remember, key feature of parallelograms are we have parallel lines. So I can transfer this 36 down here as an alternate interior angle because those match. Now I have 2 out of 3. I also know that if this angle over here is 58, this one up here has to be 58. So I can use the triangle sum game. Adding up what I have, right now I have 94 degrees. So subtracting that from 180 should give me, I believe, 86 degrees. There we go. Moving right along. ABCD is a rhombus. So big thing about the rhombus that you need to understand is that rhombi, plural of rhombus, they have diagonals that are 90 degrees. So that really opens the door. That gives me my S. And then it also allows me to find R because diagonals of a rhombus bisect the angles. So I know this is 24. So now I have 90, I have 24, I can make it equal 180. So 90 take away 24 is 66. So there is R. Keep on moving. Number 7, HIJK is a rectangle. So I'm going to come on here, and I think I actually fixed this, but on the quiz, there were 2 Ks, but it really didn't screw anything up as long as you trusted it was a rectangle. Diagonals bisect, and they're congruent. So I got 2 sets of isosceles triangles. So I'm going to focus on this triangle here on the left because I know that this base angle has to equal that base angle. So I'm going to use the vertex angle of 48 and subtract from 180. So that's 132. And then I got to divvy it up equally, which, man, 66 keeps coming up. My high school football number. So I get those 66s in there, which also gives me this side. So they're opened up an X for me, so that's nice. And now I can I can either subtract from 90, maybe on these corners. So that'll give me a 24. 24, 24, 24. That hooks me up with my Y. And subtracting from 180 from the 48 gives me these center ones. And now it gets a little interesting. Now we say, find the length of I think on your test it said JK. I kind of fixed it because there was a typo, but it didn't really matter because JK was either of these pieces right here, either one. So, it was all good. But we're trying to figure out this side. That's kind of our big question. So I used law of sines. I did that angle over that side. So I did the sine of 132 over 14. And then I did 24, sine of 24 over, I'm not sure. Let's call it X for right now. And so I cross multiplied. I multiplied those two together. And then I divided by what was across from the X. And let's just punch that in. 14 times the sine of not 124, just 24. And then divided by sine of 132. And I'm getting 7.66. And I think this one was a drop down, so you didn't really have to worry about the rounding right there. Next one, we have a trapezoid on our hands, and we are given a few things. We need to find the length of ML, so we need to find the biggest base. So I just do it like this. I just say, well, the difference between the mid segment and the lowest base is 12. So I got to do another jump of 12 if he's going to be the median. So that gives me an answer of 40. Some people got into their algebra a little deeper, and they called this X. And they said, well, I know that the top base plus the bottom base divided by 2 had to equal the mid segment. And, so that they kind of said base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 equals the mid. And then you just times, you put a 1 in there if you want, times by 28, so you'll get 56 is X plus 16, subtract, and you get X equals 40. It's nice to be able to do that. However, I think this little trick is much faster and easier. Find the measure of angle M. Well, because all of these lines are parallel, we have some corresponding and some consecutive interior angles. So if this is 97, this is 97, which means these two need to make 180 with that. So I believe that's going to be 83 and 83. Boom. Keep on going. Find the area of a trapezoid. This one, I just threw some extra numbers in there to try to trip you up. But a trapezoid, remember, is the average base times the height. And to average the base, you got to add top and bottom and divide it by 2, times it by the height. I believe we have everybody. So we have base number 1 plus base number 2 chopped in half times you're the height. You are not needed. You are not needed. And 8 plus 14 is 22. 22 chopped in half is 11. So 11 times 6.2 is 68.2. Final answer. Moving right along, number 13, coordinate grid, similar to the review. We have a kite, or you could use triangles, but I'm not going to go through that again. I did on the review. Formula is just 1/2 diagonal times diagonal, second diagonal. So we'll color code these. We'll make the first diagonal red. That has a length of 6. Don't forget our 1/2 there. And then we'll color code the second diagonal blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Half of 42 is 21. That's the area of the kite. Kites and rhombuses have the same formula. They're on the same side of the hierarchy, so you can use the same formula there. Find the area of the trapezoid. You're going to have to use some trig here. So the deal with the trig is this. You know, trapezoid, we got the generic formula. Add the bases, divide by 2, times by the height. And I got 12 as a base. I got 19 as a base. I can divide by 2. So all of that's pretty straightforward. That's 31 divided by 2, which is 15.5. Okay, so that's my average base. Now the height is what's tough. So let's do some trig to get the height. This is my height right here. And I have the 34-degree angle. Some people like the law of sines. I'm just going to use SOHCAHTOA. So if I put my guy right here, and this is what we're focusing on, it looks like I have adjacent and hypotenuse. So this looks like a job for cosine. The cosine, when standing on 34 degrees, is adjacent over hypotenuse. Slap a 1 under there, cross multiply. H equals 11 times the cosine of 34. 11 cos 34. It's going to be a big old decimal. Somebody call 911. 91194. So pop that in there. 9.119, blah, 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 blah. And I crank all that out. I'm just going to hit times 15.5. And I'm getting like 141.35, 141.4, somewhere in that area. It was a drop down, so I should have them spaced apart. Hopefully that helps explain if you missed anything or struggled on the quiz. See you.